Hello, is anybody online listening right now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, I just double checking. I had a little problem with my audio earlier in the week, so I think I've got it fixed. Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all doing well.
Hello. And we had to make a pizza out of
What's that?
Here. Home at Spa Middle School and Charlotte.
Hello, Dr. Lamb. How are
Hello.
you today? Hey, how are you?
I'm excited to be here. I've been waiting all day for this.
Especially what
I
we do
bet
here.
you have.
You learn how to put all the knives on the top.
We
and
can
peel
hear
it.
whoever's talking.
I mean, I don't do it now, but the safety of it.
Realize it.
All right, just unmute yourself now if you want to talk. Well, I see my long lost cousin Thomas is here. Tommy, how are you?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
Good. How are things in Wake?
It's Wake County. That's all.
Yeah, I spent a year there long time ago.
Yes, sir.
That was my first job. Long time ago. I didn't stay long, but I did 20 years.
I can see
in
why
Charlotte,
people
so
come and leave here.
Same deal.
Mm-hmm.
Same deal. It's like samurais, kill or be killed every day. It's the way it works. There's no kinder, gentler. That's not the credo. That's not the culture. It's only the strong survive. Oh man. Is it 7 o'clock? It is 7 o'clock. Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're with me. I'm recording tonight and I'll post the video. I got a lot of housekeeping stuff and probably some good news for some of you and bad news for some of you. So after the schedule was set for the spring, somebody in Webb Hall reviewed it and thought, well, Dale's probably making too much money. So they've collapsed two of my sections, so I'll just get paid for one, but I don't do this for the money anyway. And so I had them collapse our 602 and 604 together. So we're going to meet together tonight, but only tonight. We're going to go back to Tuesday, Wednesday, like we always do. There is no way that we can do case study nights, and they last 2 hours already. We're not doing 4-hour case study night. That's just not happening. We try to get them done in less than 2. So what we're going to do, and I'll share my screen. And I did it this way specifically. Let me go back to my content screen. So what we'll do is C4, the old C4 will be on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, and the C2, the old C2 will be on Wednesday. It'll be the same as this. And so I'll just do Tuesday, Wednesday like I normally do. Like the plan was to start with until they collapsed the classes together. So we'll still run as 2 classes. So those of you who are in C4, and let's look at here. So that's teams, course overview. That's teams 4 through 8 right here. Y'all will be on Tuesday night, and 1 through 4, which is the old C2 section. Y'all will still continue to be on Wednesday nights. And I have the links right here in the shell. So just click on your class, click on right here where it says class link, Zoom class link, and you pick the night you're going. Now, another good thing about this is the way I always do it this way is if you can't come to Tuesday and want to come to Wednesday, that's fine with me, or vice versa. That gives you a little more flexibility in your schedule. I said, that's the good news for some of you. Now, if you just want to watch the videos, that's fine with me too. But if you want to come to class, now you do have to come to class on case study night. So let's look at case study nights and make sure. So the first one should be, should be 4th week. Class session 4 is for case study 1. So in another week or so, I'll talk to you 2 weeks. I'll give you notice and we'll go over what you need to do for your case studies. You'll need to Zoom on the side. Now, you don't have to do any peer reviews, video peer reviews this semester. You've already mastered that. We're moving to another level now where you have to Zoom and collaborate to produce a product, which is your case study PowerPoint. Another level. Remember, we add difficulty, we pull back on the support, we add layers of difficulty. So this is adding a layer of difficulty. So instead of doing a peer review virtually where your team comes online together and talks about and reviews one another's work, you will come together same way, but you will to produce a PowerPoint of your case study. Got 4 case studies. So the first one is week 4. Let's just look at the class schedule here. I always do it this way. And so those of you on Tuesday, it's the same thing. It's just Tuesday rather than Wednesdays. And so if it will pop up, here it comes. Case study 1 is week 4. Case study 2 is week 7. Case study 3 is week 9. Then we have spring break. And then week 13 is break, and then we have case study 4, which is week 14. Pretty easy. You can figure that out pretty quickly. And I'll talk to you in another week or so about, probably next week, I'll talk to you about what case studies look like. That'll give you 2 weeks notice. So we'll talk about that. It takes a little time to go through that. They're not complicated. You just got to read the materials and get the right answer. That's the most important thing, is get the right answer in terms of what you have to do legally. So this is the weekly schedule. It's built right there. You can see everything that you got to do every week. And it's got the pacing for your evidence work. You start OMA task 1. It's the first draft's due in 2 weeks. OMA task 1 is really involved. There's a lot of pieces. I'm going to talk about them in a few minutes. But the good thing is task 2 is a straight copy and paste. Take you 5 minutes. Because we had you do your AppTel last semester, and we wouldn't let you pick. You had to do professional development in an academic area. There was I told you then, don't pick discipline. Don't do stuff like that. There's a reason why. Now, when you get to task 2 of the OMA, you simply copy task 1, 2, and 3 of the AppTel, take the labels off, and you're done. I mean, there's nothing else to do. It's a 5-minute to do task 2. So if you need an extra week on task 1, if it takes 3 weeks, not a big deal. You won't be behind. You can take up to 3 weeks to do task 1, which is pretty involved. But task 2 is not. Task 3 is quick. Task 4 is just writing your competencies. Skips the same way. Task 1's kind of heavy. After that, 2 and 3 really quick. 4, writing your competencies. Y'all know how to do all those things. So here's what we'll cover every week. Have your discussion board. Now, this class is all about coming and going, to and froing. This is an operations class. So your first week in the discussion board, you'll find you got to locate copies of your school's crisis and emergency plans, read school law chapter 1, and assess both of your school's plan, the emergency plan and the crisis plan. Where am I? Let me grab a book right quick. Please make sure that you've got this book, the brown copy of Principal's Guide to School Law, the brown one, from Hatchet, 4th edition. If you've got the 3rd, it'll work, but it's better if you got this, and then the resource book's the same. Make sure that you read your chapters. Now, I'm not going to ask you every week. I'm not going to cover the chapters. You can read. But it will help you to assess these plans. Now, I hate that we have to start with this one, but we have to. Unfortunately, this has become probably, paramount in schools today is safety. Your security plans, your safety plans, your crisis plans. I wish it weren't that way. I've lived too long. I never thought that I'd live when I taught school law that I would have to start out with emergency and safety plans. We used to do that as an afterthought at the end of the class when we were wrapping up. Now it has to be the first thing. Charlotte Mecklenburg just got a new superintendent. The one before that was he was kind of interim for a little while. The one before that was fired because the crisis plan at Butler High School, they didn't have one, and what they had didn't work. So unfortunately, when a young man was shot in the front lobby of the school, they didn't know what to do. Crisis plan, there's 3 evacuation places. This is what when you read this and you look at the materials that I have under tonight, you'll find out there is a place on your campus you evacuate to, like the ball field. There's a place that you walk students to, like a church or something nearby. And then there's a place where you go there, and then you're bused to somewhere else in Charlotte, it's Coliseum. They're on Independence. They had people scattered everywhere. They didn't know what their plan was or how to enact it or any of those things. They hadn't practiced it. And it just ate the superintendent up. You can't have people get killed and parents not know where their kids are. It doesn't work that way. And so that one has to be first. But here's our weekly schedule. Everything that you will do this semester is right here in one handy dandy document. All of your discussion boards. And so we can go. Discussion board, weekly assignments, right there they are. Upload your contact information. See, somebody's put one in since I looked at it earlier this morning. And right here they are. And it has the reading that you need to do to make sure that you know what you're looking for when you do these things. But they're not read a chapter, write a paper kind of things. Find and examine your field trip policy. Look for your emergency plans. Observe a due process. Is kid being processed for discipline in your school? Interview an AP about due process. Examine your district's policy on cyberbullying. Attend an IEP meeting. Interview the chair of your MTSS team. Interview an administrator in the central office about HR practices. Interview an administrator in the central office about employee assistance. You need to know those things as a principal. Very important. Conduct a facilities walkthrough. If you don't have one for your district, I've got one. North Carolina General Statute 115C 288. Duties and responsibilities of the school principal. We'll cover that in depth next week. So here's your first pop quiz. Under 115C 288, how many times a month do you have to do a fire drill? Once a month, right? How many times a year do you have to do a safety inspection of your facilities? It's also same law. Got to do a safety inspection of your facilities. How many times a year? Twice a month, every 2 weeks. And document it in writing. How many of you knew that? That's the one that gets more principals fired than anything I know in terms of facilities. They don't do their safety reports. Somebody gets hurt, door gets blocked, doors propped open, an intruder gets in. How'd they get in the last school shooting that we had? How'd they get in? Kitchen door was propped open, wasn't it? How'd they get in the classroom and kill all those kids? Doorknob was broken, wouldn't lock. It had been documented for months. Nobody did anything about it. They told the cafeteria, quit propping the door open. It gets hot in the kitchen though, doesn't it? They didn't take any steps to ameliorate that. Didn't fix the lock on that classroom door. Shooter came in, went to the first classroom where the door wasn't locked, went in and killed all the kids. Horrific. I have nightmares about that still.
Miss Lamb, I have a question.
Yes.
Is it, I mean, I don't have my book at it. I won't get until Monday. But are those laws the same in each state? Is that the
Yes.
federal law? Okay.
Yes. You won't find any difference. They're just in South Carolina, they're called titles rather than statutes in South Carolina, but they're all the same. Fire drill once a month, safety inspection twice a month. All of it, everything that we teach in this course applies to both states. It does not change. And if we got any Virginia or Georgia people, I had this summer in my section, I had a couple from Virginia, and Alicia Glass is from Virginia, and she was at graduation the other day. I got a picture with her. She's from Georgia. She's from Savannah. So all the Mid-Atlantic states are pretty much the same. Now, if we go west, they're a little bit different because they're a little more states' rights kind of thing. But Virginia, North, South Carolina, and Georgia are all the same on their laws. They just classify them differently. But that's a great question. That's a great question. So you got to make sure that you understand this is a law course. I cannot keep you from getting sued. You will get sued if you're in the business long enough. My job is to make sure that when you get sued, you win. How many of you are Raiders fans from back in the day? What was their owner, Al Davis? What did he just used to say all the time? Just win, baby. That's our job. It's kind of crass. It's kind of heartless. But my job is to keep you from losing your house. Losing your livelihood. That's the notion of this course. This is not about writing legal briefs or any of that stuff. This is how you operate in a school environment, in a highly legal environment that you have today, where parents want to sue you for everything, or some advocacy group wants to sue you for everything. My job is to keep you from losing your house. It's pretty basic. That's why I said this is an operations course. Nothing about philosophy. I'm not a deep thinker. Y'all have already figured that out. I'm an operations person. My job is to make the trains run on time. I didn't say we'd have any fun on the trip. I said they'd run on time and we'll get there safely. That's our job. All right. So we're going to split in to recap the first little bit here. I'll do this in 15-minute segments. Recap. We're going to do Tuesday night and Wednesday night. C4 will be on Tuesday night. C2 will be on Wednesday night. You've got the class links. Everybody's the same case study nights. I've identified those on the weekly schedule. Your discussion board activities. You got one each week where you got to go out and do something. You need to do some reading to make sure you understand why you go out there. And when I respond to you, I'll put the takeaways. The takeaway from this is, crisis plans, you got to have them. They got to be practiced. They got to be up to date. I can't tell you the number of students who come back every semester and say, yeah, I found the crisis box. It was right under the front desk in the front office, right where it was supposed to. When we opened it up, it had class rosters from 2019 before the pandemic. Well, how good is that going to be in a crisis situation? That our class rosters, some of the teachers aren't even there. As much as teachers turn over nowadays, what is your data manager supposed to do every Monday morning, by the way? Run a class roster list and put it in that box every Monday morning. They're never supposed to be more than a week old. I mean, this is basic stuff, folks, but in crisis, if you haven't done these things, if your crisis box is not up to date, your rosters aren't up to date, you don't know where kids are, it doesn't go well for you. It does not go well for you. Your facility's unsafe, somebody gets hurt, you prop a door open, doors are broken, there's a fire, access is blocked, it doesn't go well for you. So let me explain that since 1992, now some of you, I'm betting on this screen, probably weren't too old in 1992. You know how old I am? I was a school principal in 1992. You know what kind of training I had to go through in 1992? Richard Schwartz and Associates out of Raleigh did seminars all over the state. We were all required to go to one because since 1992, that would be coming up on 32 years, there's been tort liability in North and South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. What does tort liability mean? That means you can be sued for your house, your car, your personal possessions, your bank account, your retirement. If you do something and that falls under negligence, there are three types of negligence. We'll talk about these more. Misfeasance, malfeasance, nonfeasance. Under tort liability, you are legally liable for negligence now. You personally, not just your district, but you. They can take your house. Misfeasance is you did the wrong thing. You didn't intentionally do the wrong thing. You didn't know it was the wrong thing, but you did the wrong thing. You didn't check with your law book. You didn't ask somebody. Now, I thought it was Snoop, but now Renita that works with me, Griffin Jordan out of Durham, she says it was, and she said it was Biggie. Said, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. But if you don't know, you better ask somebody. If you make a bad decision because you didn't confer with the legal department, you didn't check your law book, you didn't know, you didn't check with your area superintendent, that would be misfeasance. That's a form of negligence. You can be sued and lose your house. That's misfeasance. Malfeasance is you intentionally did the wrong thing. You knew it was wrong, did it anyway. They'll get you for that. And then we have the other statute under negligence is nonfeasance. You had a duty to act and you didn't. You had a duty every 2 weeks to go and check your building. You didn't. That's what we're talking about. So we're playing for pretty high stakes here in the school business. Negligence, misfeasance, malfeasance, nonfeasance. Tort liability since 1992, which means you can be sued as an individual for your property, for your assets. You got to understand that the school's insurance will not cover that part. You can be sued as an individual person. So you got to get it right. That's the stakes that we're playing for here. The two evidences this semester are the OMA and the skip. They're fairly easy. Fairly quick, it's comprehensive, a lot of stuff in task one. Those are our two evidences. This is the longest semester. If you can get to the cap, most of the time I have folks get to the cap. If you can knock the cap out this spring, between this spring and the break between summer school, it'll make life a whole lot easier this summer when y'all finish up where you only have that one last evidence to do, just the PSYOP. That would be, that's a best practice. That is, summer just absolutely flies by. It's only 10 weeks. And you've got to be done, as you know, 2 weeks before the end of the semester, you have to be done. So you've actually only got 8 weeks to knock out your evidences. There's 4 tasks in the cap. There's 6 in the SOP. That would be 10 in 8 weeks. I can do that math. That's more than 1 task a week. That gets a little bit hairy. So why not, when you've got 16, 17 weeks this spring, knock out more than just the 8 tasks of the OMA and the skip? Why not knock out another 4 and get that cap knocked out at the same time? So be thinking about that along the way. You don't have to, but that'll be it. Now, if y'all tell this, I'll swear it's not true. I am not a good person, but I have given my coach this semester to the 601s. It's just me and y'all. It's the way it is every semester for me. I train in this one. Nobody grades your work but me anyway. I want to see your work. I want to know what you're doing. I grade every morning and every night. And that would be every morning and every night. 7 days a week. I will turn your work around fast. You say, well, you know, I don't know if I can get all this work done. I won't slow you down. And I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. If it's not there, if it's good, we go. We're not, I'm not your editor. I don't do syntax and grammar and all that stuff. If it's there, we go, and then we move on. I get students say, well, if you'd give me more feedback, I could score a 4 rather than 3.5. If it's good enough, we're going. We could all do better if we had more time. Of all the stupid things that I'll say this semester, write that one down. We could all do better if we had more time. That's the way life works. If it's good enough, we go. Off we go. You're going to have to learn as a school administrator. I have a picture here somewhere, but I'm going to pull it up. My latest doctoral student that just finished, she was on that montage that comes across the screen, Jennifer Croyman. She's principal at Nebo Elementary in McDowell County. I love Jennifer. She was my latest doctoral student, my latest prodigy. And she did her dissertation on principal self-care. And the reason why is that principals can't disengage. they can't, they're such perfectionists. They can't ever, they can't say that's enough and move on. And it wears them out. It burns them out. You've got to learn that's enough. That's as good as I can do in the time that I've got allotted, and then I move on. And that's the way you've got to start treating your evidence. Is you can't spend 2 or 3 weeks on a task. You know, you got 2 weeks on the first one in the OMA, and we'll give you a little wiggle room on that. But then after that, you better be knocking them out one a week. You got to move on. There's too much more stuff to do, but you got to get in the habit of that's good enough. That's as much time as I can commit to that. And if you'll do that now in your preparation, hopefully you'll be able to do that when you're in the role. Some of you are already in the role, but if you can do that now and learn to do, that's enough. Yeah, I could do it better, but you know, I can't spend any time with my kids or my spouse, or I can't go to church, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. You can't start taking away the things in your life that make your life worth living. Your family, your friends, your faith, those kinds of things. You can't just say, well, I'm going to put my life on hold right now, because that becomes habitual. So get those tasks in there. If they got all the parts that they need, we go to the next one. I don't sit and do APA and all that with you like they did last semester. You're supposed to learn that. That's why I don't teach y'all in the first semester. I don't have the patience for that. It would make my hair fall out if I had to work with first semester people all the time. All right, so let's go back and see where we are. All right, we're 5 minutes ahead of our time. So here's your activities, and at the end of your discussion board, here's where you put your task in for review. And I've already got it built for you to do the cap if you can get it done. You put them in for review there, and of course, OMA assignment drop boxes, that's where you put the completed one. And I'll tell you, and then skip, and then same thing for your cap. They're here. Everything that we're going to cover every night's under Zoom sessions. And so I'll always have the video from, like I've got the one from last spring because it's paced the same way. You can look at it before class and you see what we're doing. And then I'll make this one unavailable later tonight, and I'll put the one from tonight up. Okay, review all Blackboard functions. We've done that. All right, next thing on the line here is review all task stream functions. All right, I've got task stream turned on to your view. Oh, I did. It's already popped out on me. I'll sign back in. Let me sign in as one of y'all. This is your DRF. Y'all are fall 23. You did the APSEL, the APTEL competency analysis at the end of the semester, and your dispositions. This semester, you simply have to do the OMA skip, and then you can do your dispositions anytime you want to. You can do them tonight if you want to. And then you can go ahead and start on the cap, because you see all this stuff that you got to do. You need 1 round of competency artifacts this semester to go in there. Now, remember, you do not access your folio from here, your competency folio. Please remember that you simply click on folios and web pages up here, and you find yours. I've got dozens of them. And so communication down through visionary, you need 1 artifact for this semester. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll have 1 for all of them. So for example, if we click on judgment, see 1 from the skip. If you want to do you can put 1 in there for the skip this semester. Let's do emotional intelligence. You can do 1 from the cap there this semester if you want to. Organizational ability, 1 for the skip. Results orientation. One from the skip, one from the cap. You could do 2 there if you wanted to. Communication, app sell, SIOP, open-ended. We're not doing any of those this semester. You could do an open-ended one there if you want to, but you need to look at these. Each one of them tells you where they're going to come from. Some of them you can do 2, or you can do an open-ended one. You don't just have to end up with 3, but make sure that you know what your artifacts are. If we go back to our class shell right here, if you don't remember what an artifact is, right here under where it says competency folio artifacts from the evidences. All right, we're doing the OMA and the skip this time. So let's look right here from the OMA. When you pull your state report card, if you screenshot that, that's an artifact. Your school improvement plan, you got to find it, that's an artifact. Teacher working condition survey, the results from your school, that's an artifact. Federal, state, local EC guidelines, that's an artifact. Your report card, EC survey, any of those. Your scheduling manual, if your district's got one, that's an artifact. Board policy manual, federal and state laws, best practice, abstracts, process plan, your duty roster, master schedule, and supervision that you've got to collect up for OMA task 1. Those are all artifacts. All right, and then from the skip, they're the ones from the skip. There's the ones from the cap. So these are all artifacts. You got to collect them up anyway. To screenshot them and use them as artifacts and say, you know, I used this. I found this. I learned this. Artifacts don't have to be hard. We make them much harder than they have to be. All right. So back to task stream. OMA, skip, cap, you can get to it. Dispositions. I intentionally didn't have a competency analysis for you to do this semester so that you can hopefully get on that cap, because you just got to have 2 during the course of your program. And so I moved them for the first and the last semesters, cleared this one. So hopefully we can do this cap. Make sure you get 21 artifacts in your competency folio. I just showed you how to go there. Keep up with your internship log. Make sure you're logging all the hours you need to log. And then I'll show you how to upload your folio. We've got a video on that. You won't do that till next semester. But your internship log, make sure you keep up with your hours on that one. Now, you folks are supposed to have 500 hours. So you're supposed to do 200 in the fall, 200 in the spring, and 100 in the summer. Now remember, 100 of those come from your evidence work. So you got to get out and do those. And remember in your handbook what those activities are. Right here, clinical internship handbook. I probably need to put the later. So right here are your activities to get your hours. They're right here in your handbook, the things that you can do. They're divided into leadership, which is 60%, supervision, and then technical knowledge. It's kind of a 60-20. Well, it's not. It's actually probably a 60-30-10. Only about 10% of your activities should be supervision. As I've told you. Yes.
This is Tanya. How far back into December can we date internship log? December 7th, after the last semester was over?
December 1st.
First. Okay. Thank you.
December 1st. If you got some hours. Yeah. You know my old joke about supervision. I mean, there's only, don't take long how to learn how to do bus duty. There's only two things you got to remember about bus duty, which are relevant in the spring semester. One, don't get run over. Two, wear a coat long enough to cover you behind so you don't freeze to death. After that, I mean, the learning curve is not too steep on supervision. So, the state doesn't like to see too much supervision on that log. Or your state assessor. They check that at the end, by the way. They not only check for the number of hours, they check to make sure that you don't have 385 hours of supervision like George Fishburne did on his one time. That causes a problem. I had a student back in the days when there was 400 hours. I'm not making this up. We had 400-hour requirement about 10 years ago or 11. George was at Williams Township down below Whiteville, going toward Conway, South Carolina, little community down there, and he had 385 of his 400 hours were bus duty. It would have been easier to got a camel through the eye of a needle than to get George a license with 385 of his 400 hours as bus duty. I'm not making that up. I wish I was. And so, don't come up at the end with the requisite number of hours, but they're all bus duty. Make sure that they're technical and leadership type activities. That's just a word to the wise. You don't want to go through all this and then have to do another semester of internship. And they really check those things out. Really. So make sure you do that. All right. Back to the screen share. All right. All right. Task and prompts. Everything's good there. Zoom session 1. All right. We've reviewed all those legal requirements for planning instructional time, local board policy on scheduling, items needed for OMA. All right. So what is the OMA? Well, it's real simple. The OMA is not about developing a master schedule, duty roster, and supervision schedule. It's about developing a legal master schedule, duty roster, and supervision schedule. You'd be amazed how many principals develop those and they aren't legal. And then they get in trouble. So when you say, Dale, what do you mean they have to be legal? It's real simple. They have to have certain federal, state, local requirements in each of those documents. So the way that it works in the world, federal law comes first, then state policy, state law, and policy comes second. Local board policy comes third. Best practices comes fourth, and then teacher input comes fifth when we talk about school scheduling a school. So my story about getting those wrong, there's 5, that's the rationale for scheduling, the legal rationale. And so I've got a PowerPoint right here on this. I do this for school districts. They have me come in and work with their principals all the time. The master schedule and the school budget are the two pillars that hold up the school improvement plan. If you don't schedule your school to support your academic initiatives, or you don't budget your school for your academic initiatives, it's not going to happen. But they've got to be legal. And so here are the things that you're going to need to schedule a school. You need to start collecting these up later, tomorrow. Your NCDPI report card takes 1 minute to go online and find your report card. Your EVOS school report, your principal has that. You don't have to have the one for teachers. You can look at your growth right there on the state report card. School improvement plan, your existing master schedule, your existing duty roster, your existing supervision schedule. Now, I get questioned all the time. Well, what's a duty roster? Well, duties during the day. Bus duty, car rider duty, lunch duty, hall duty. Duty is during the day. Supervision schedule is your after-school activities. The step club, the ball game, the glee club, whatever it is. Covering the sock hop. Covering a ball game at night. That's the supervision schedule. Your teacher working condition survey, as you know, that's That's online. You can find the results of that as well. And your latest accreditation report. Your latest accreditation report, all we need from there, that's just a shortcut. Because what that has is your external data, like your average income of your community, the average age, the median house price of house. It puts your community, that they want an external context for your school. That's where you find it. The first page or two of your accreditation report gives kind of an overview of the community that your school is in. That's all we need from it. We need to know that.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. King again. EVOS, I know we don't have EVOS.
You have
And-
SLOs, same thing.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Everything in North Carolina is in South Carolina again. The terminology might just be different. In South Carolina, you have student learning objectives. That's the same as EVOS, exact same thing. All right, so those are the things that you're going to need to start master scheduling a school. You need to know from your report card, how well are you doing on your proficiency and on your growth? What are we doing or not doing? We went over EVOS with you last semester. You can see what teachers are doing well, what areas you're not doing well in. That's what your school improvement plan is going to be about, those academic areas you need help in. You need to look at your last school improvement plan. Are we enacting any of those things? You look at your former master schedule. Just like doing the master schedule for spring classes in the MSA program at Gardner Webb. I made a command decision to shift additional personnel to the beginning class that's got 30 in it rather than with y'all. That's just the kind of things you have to do. Those people need more support than you do. I don't use a coach in that way anyway, so I have to shift personnel. That's what you're talking about in master schedule. Remember, Dr. Hamilton talked to you when we're doing EVOS. If you know that this scores count a whole lot more than that, if you got an extra teacher, you put them in that area where the scores are going to count more and reduce those class sizes. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. You're going to have to look at that former master schedule or the one you're using now and modify it or come up with a new one that can show some improvement. Duty roster. Do you have all your hot spots covered? Do you have adequate supervision? North Carolina, South Carolina, it doesn't matter. The rule is 1 to 45. Write that down. That's important. 1 to 45. What does that mean? That means everywhere where you've got a group of kids, for every 45 kids, you got to have one adult. So in the lunchroom at lunchtime, there's 450 kids in there at lunchroom on the first shift. How many adults you got to have in the lunchroom? That would be 10. Now, I'm not dumb enough, well, I am pretty dumb, but I'm not dumb enough to tell you, or naive enough that, you could have 100 in the cafeteria at Garinger and they're still going to fight like dogs. Okay? But remember, our job is to win when we go to court. When we go to court, how many adults were in there? Well, there were 10. Well, then we're clear on supervision. They can't get us for negligence. Somebody gets hurt, that's the luck of the draw. But if there's only 5 people in there and somebody gets hurt, you're going to be homeless. That's the way it works. 1 to 45 is the number you have to have for supervision. So when you're doing your duty roster, if you know that you're going to have 300 kids in the lunchroom at any one time, you better have 7 adults in there with them. All right. We also know that every time we pull somebody out of the schedule, the teaching rotation, that means the class sizes go up, and we can't let our class sizes, everybody can't have last period planning. Everybody can't have fourth period, so they get that extra time between lunch shifts. Everybody wants fourth period planning or last period, or we have the people who always come in late who want first period so they can show up late. But everybody can't have those because it would blow our class size. State law, I mean, the state law tells you how many students, the maximum number you can put in the class. You can't put 30. You can put 30, but you can't put 40 so that you can have an extra person somewhere. It doesn't work that way. So you got to know what's your federal law. So federal law covers your federal programs. Let's go back and look at that again. So here are your federal programs. All right. So when you're talking about your master scheduling rationale, your federal programs, federal laws come first. All right. So here's your second pop quiz tonight. Anybody, open your microphone. Name a federal program.
Title One.
Title I. Yay. Title I's a federal program for reading and math support. All right. Title I. Does it matter if it's a Title I school or a Title I program? Does that matter? Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. See, somebody's already fallen into my trap, so I get to tell a story now. So about halfway between Raleigh and Wilmington on 40, what is it? You come to 42 down at Newton Grove, and you get off on 42, and you head toward the coast, across the state. You head toward Topsail, and it's so far out in the sticks that your GPS just spins. Don't even know where you are. I went to a school. I had to drive up a man's driveway and through out the backside of his carport to get to the school. They were working on the road. I can't make that up. Needed a helicopter to find it. Now, the point of the story is, and that's relevant to the point of the story, is when I got there, they were doing Title I audit. Now, do you think they just happened to pick that school at random? You needed a helicopter to find it. Your GPS didn't even work. What had happened was, as the kids say, what had happened was, the third grade teachers were mad at the principal, and he forgot this rationale right here, and he let teacher input come first. They were all mad because the Title I third grade teacher only had 12 kids in her class, and they all had 30 in theirs. They got mad and pitched a fit, and so as soon as he put 15 kids in her Title I class that weren't Title I, she called Raleigh immediately. They came out and audited. Now, the bad part for me was I had to wait for an hour to see him, but the worst part was I had to go back 2 weeks later to meet the new principal. You don't misspend federal money, but one time, and then somebody else gets the opportunity. They fired him as that happens. Title I schools. A Title I school has 80% or more free and reduced lunch, and every kid in there, any kid can be in any class and they can share the money. A Title I program only has 50% or more Title I kids, and only the Title I kids can be in Title I teacher's class. You think that matters when you're scheduling a school? You doggone right it does. You got to know. All right, I got Title I, but is it a program or are we a Title I school? That's the first thing you got to know. All right, so Title I is one of your 5 federal programs. All right, somebody else name another federal program.
McKinney-Vento.
Okay, that's your homeless. They go with your 504 kids. They're on a PEP. EC, they're on an IEP. Can you mix those up? Carolina, is good point. Can you just mix them up and treat them like regular ed kids? No. Can you put, if they're designated, say autistic, can you put them in the learning in the SLD class, specific learning disability? No, you can't mix them up. Can't do that. Is that important when you're scheduling a school? You doggone right it is. So you've got your Title I kids, and then you've got your exceptional children, which is EC 504, McKinney-Vento. You got those. Can't be mixing those. Then you got your AG kids. Technically, they're exceptional children too. They're on a PEP just like the McKinney-Ventos and the 504s. All right, so you've got Title I, EC 504, McKinney-Vento, gifted. What about second language kids, whatever you want to call them, ESL, ELL, whatever? What about those? Is that a federal program? Absolutely it is. Can you just put them anywhere anytime you want to? Can you put different kids in those rooms? No. Who pays for federal teachers, by the way? Federal government does. So that's another thing is if you assign them things that they're not supposed to be doing, you've misspent federal money. Because back in the days when we physically got checks, their check was a different color if you were in a federal program. Theirs was yellow. State checks were blue. Local checks were pink. And then the last of the federal programs, CTE, Career and Technical Education, also a federal program. So you got to schedule those first because they have the most restrictive requirements on what you can and can't do with those teachers and those kids in those classes. They got to come first in your master schedule. All right, that's the first thing. Then state law. State law is how many kids are in a class, highly qualified teachers, teacher certification, number of hours of instruction. Those kinds of things come second. I've got a document, that legal planning time document under tonight's lesson right here. This one right here's got all that stuff on it. Number of days, number of hours right there. And I've got another one here. This, by the way, is a double secret document. I'll never tell where I got it. When you work for a district, especially the larger ones, they will have a eyes only for principals like this that have all the local things that you will and won't do. And you can see right here how they got it purted out by these are the local standards for scheduling. This is local board policy. So that comes 3. So you got to make sure that you've got that all the things. They determine things like, are we going to have an AD day or a 4x4 block? How many minutes in elementary school? They say how many minutes of reading, how many minutes of math, how many science. All those things have to be taken into consideration. So you've got to know what the rules are at your grade level, whether it be elementary, middle, or high school. What are the rules that the district has put in? I went by to see Aquanetta over at Hickory Grove a few years back on Monday. I was heading to Fayetteville back when we still taught classes in person. I was heading that way and I stopped to see Aquanetta. And they were it was just frenetic activity. So what in the world's going on? It was Monday, June the 11th. She said, everybody goes off contract on Friday the 15th. And I said, yeah. She said, we got word this morning that we had to tear our master schedule apart and start all over again. The board decided they would add 30 minutes to reading. Is that a big deal in elementary school when you're using specials to cover classes and doing all those things? You know, your art and music and PE is doing for your planning. And all of a sudden sometimes those people are itinerants. They might work at more than one school. They had to trash their master schedule and start again on Monday and had to have it done by Friday. Now, Hickory Grove is not a small school. They had 1,100 kids. Not easy. But that's what we're talking about. The local board has policies on length of time, number of minutes, organization, that kind of stuff. That comes next. Then your EVOS performance data that Dr. Hamilton talked to you about. This teacher does good with this group. This teacher doesn't do well with this subject. Those kinds of things. Then that's factored in. And then last but not least is teacher input. Now, teacher input shouldn't be about I want to teach this and don't want to teach that. It's about what kids should and shouldn't be together. That's what we're talking about. So this is how you put a master schedule together. And here, as I told you, here are your federal programs. EC 504, your intervention team referrals, also get those. Your McKinney-Ventos in with that. Your Title I English as second language gifted and CTE, as I told you. State law, as I told you, has class size limits, highly qualified teacher licensures, hours, days, minutes, planning time, duty, free time, teacher work days. That's what the state law is. Local board policy, daily schedule, whether it be block, flex, traditional, mosaic. Mosaic's just school within school. Hours of instruction, special programs, clubs, organizations, local assessments. That's what you got to factor all those in. And then your performance data, whether it be SLO or EVOS, and then just student information, as I just told you. And so here's my conclusion. The master schedule does not positively impact academic initiatives of your school improvement plan, is the outcome of poor master scheduling and process, and did not occur by luck or chance. So when we have you assess, we don't have you just assess the current master schedule in task 3. We want you to look at the process. Did you start with your federal programs and then state law, local board policy, and then look at your performance data from teachers in SLOs or EVOS? Did you do it that way? Or did you start with this teacher wants to do this and this one wants to do that? We can increase the probability that our master schedule has an impact on our academic initiatives if we use the proper rationale. And again, here is the rationale. It always goes this way. Federal law comes first, then state law, then board policy, then your performance data, and then teacher input. In that order, always. Never, never vary from that order, period. So that's what we're going to be doing in the OMA this semester. I'll talk about the skip later on in the semester. So now, what goodies do I have for you? All right. Dr. Mark Robertson, who worked with me a million years ago in Charlotte, he's done a little outline here for you. It's not much of one, but it's it'll kind of help you and kind of help you with writing your OMA. Again, it's just an outline form. The template this semester does not have all that stuff. As I told you, it wouldn't. It simply has the task and the prompts. Just tells you what to do. Just tells you what to do. There they are. Task 1, task 2, task 3, and then write your competencies in 4. Now, writing your competencies in task 4 of the OMA and the skip. There are none to write in the cap, by the way. You don't have to write them in the cap. You do 12 and 9, or you do 10 and 11. I don't care, and you get to pick the ones you want. I don't care which ones you pick. So when you do the OMA, if you do 10, you got to do 11 when you do the skip. You know, when you're writing your competency analysis. And if you do 15, then you've only got to do 6. It's up to you. And so I also have you an example, an OMA example. And the reason why I have this example is it's not a North or South Carolina example. So I don't have to worry about you copy and pasting, but just you can see the format on this one. This is Amber Phelps. And there's the example, the PowerPoint that I just showed you. I do want you to click on this bottom link right here and start reading this thing. This is your Bible for disciplinary data reporting. You need to start reading this thing because we're going to cover it in depth later, but it's rather lengthy. So you need to start getting familiar with this. This is PowerSchool, how to report your disciplinary data in PowerSchool. If you don't do that correctly, it will not go well for you. You got to make sure you do that. Now, another reason why I used Amber's paper is again, it's got all the right pieces and parts in it. It's not a North Carolina or South Carolina paper, so I don't have to worry about you pulling anything out of it and then we get caught on turning it in. But now, my story about Amber is this. She's one of my favorites from all time. She was with me through the add-on, and then she came back and did the extra 2 courses and got a second master's when she was a military dependent. She left Jacksonville, North Carolina, and went to the Big Island in Hawaii to Hickam. And in Hawaii, which is a union state, you have to have a master's. And so just like all y'all are getting a second master's, she needed a second master's, so she came back. But now her dedication was such that you understand that I worked with her individually because we were on a 6-hour time differential. So we would generally work at 6 o'clock her time for an hour in the morning from 6 to 7 before she went to work, which was noon my time, or we worked when she got home, which was late at night for me, one or the other. We kind of alternated back and forth. I stay up late, she gets up early. I get up early too, so it wasn't a big deal. But my point in using Amber for the example is that she wanted it. She understood. She got after it. I like people that get after it. School administration is not for the faint-hearted. One of my favorite movies of all time, A League of Their Own, with Gina Davis and Tom Hanks. What Tom Hanks say? No crying in baseball. No crying in school administration. You got to get after it. You got to catch another gear. You got to work hard. You work hard so that you can have that quality time with your family and the things that matter. But if you don't get after it during the work time, then you never have time to get anything done. And you've got to find a way to understand. I got to work hard when I allot this amount of time, and when I get done, I'm done. And I move on. If it's good enough, I move on. Yeah, I could have done better if I'd have had another 2 days, 3 weeks, whatever, but I don't. You got to start looking at time management now, because if you learn bad habits now, you'll take them right into the job with you, and then you'll burn out. You'll burn yourself to a crisp. They'll let you work all that you want to work. You've got to learn to manage your time. You've got to know when enough is enough. You've got to do whatever it takes to do the things that you need to do. And hard work, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And that's the life of a school principal. The harder you work, the luckier you get, the smarter, the more efficient you are, understanding, this is enough. Making sure that you're following the rules correctly, doing the things you need to do, schedule your school and develop your budget so that they support your academic initiatives, and you'll make it. You'll make a difference with students. Be a day late and a dollar short all the time. This business is not for you. It is not. It can consume you. It can, if you're not efficient, if you're not a hard worker, the time that you're there, and then can lay it down until you come back, then you won't make it. You'll burn out, or you won't be good enough. There's enough average administrators. Your job is to be a great one. We don't train average ones at Gardner Webb. Our job is to train you to be a great one. I see my time is up. We start on time, we end on time. That's another thing. Bell ring, go to class. Bell ring, go to next class, just like school. I'm an old high school principal. That's the way I operate. Bell ring, go to class. Bell ring, go to next class. So we'll start every week at 7. We'll end at 8, except on case study nights. We'll try to get done in less than 2 hours. We'll talk about case studies next week. Remember, for those of you C4 section, you will be with me next Tuesday night at 7. Your link's right in there. And for you C2 people, you'll be with me next Wednesday night as planned. And so we'll do Tuesday, Wednesday again, except for case study nights. If you miss a night and you want to come live and you say, I just can't do without the fixing, I need to be insulted or bored for an hour live. Tuesday or Wednesday, your option, you can come and join me. I appreciate you being with me tonight. Again, I always tell you, and I mean it, I appreciate you choosing Gardner Webb. I think we do a good job training administrators, and I know that I feel good when y'all go out in the buildings and work with kids and teachers. I know you do a good job with them. So I appreciate you being with us. It matters where you go to school and what you do. So I will see the C4 group next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, next Wednesday for the C2 group, and we'll talk about case studies to start next week, and then we'll hit content. Read that disciplinary data manual as much as you can between now and then. I will see you next week. Everybody have a good week. Thank you.